Hi and good evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I am Amibuddham. Now the latest headlines from world channels and news agencies.
Purported leak.
With Elko with your tri-state weather outlook. Today, you'll be dodging a few raindrops and even some wet snow showers moving into our area.
Tonight, a special edition of World News Tonight, the deadliest air disaster in the U.S. in more than 2 decades. The mid-air collision right here over the Potomac River, an American Airlines passenger jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. Tonight, authorities now saying no one survived. Tonight, surveillance video showing the moment of impact, the sudden fireball in the sky over Washington, D.C.
Crash. This is Alert 3.
The alarming call from air traffic control. An American Airlines flight out of Wichita, Kansas, on approach to Reagan National Airport. The U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter on a night training mission colliding with the jet, both plunging into the frigid waters of the Potomac River. 64 passengers and crew on the plane, 3 soldiers on the Black Hawk helicopter. Tonight, the witness who told me what he saw driving home from work, what he witnessed right through his window. And tonight we're learning about the 67 lives lost, the American Airlines pilots, the young figure skaters, their coaches and family members returning from the national championships and camp in Wichita, the young stars, many from the Boston area, the husband and wife coaching team, former Olympic skater Nancy Kerrigan tonight in tears talking about those young skaters. Among them, a 16-year-old figure skater and what he posted just before that flight took off from Wichita. President Trump in the White House briefing room today calling for a moment of silence. Moments later, the president implying DEI policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion might have contributed to the crash. Also tonight, the fast-moving investigation now. You will hear the air traffic controller asking the Black Hawk helicopter, "Do you see the regional jet?" Tonight, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying a mistake was made. And what early data reveals about altitude. The Black Hawk flying at 350 feet, authorities on where it should have been. And tonight, new questions about whether that one air traffic controller was doing the work of 2 controllers. And tonight here, my interview with the DC fire chief, what his divers found when they reached the wreckage 10 minutes after the crash, the fuselage in multiple parts. And tonight, images of the Black Hawk helicopter submerged in the Potomac. And what we're now learning about those service members. Were they wearing night vision goggles during routine training? Our team here on the ground, a special edition of World News Tonight, begins now. From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from Washington, D.C.
Tonight, the growing questions over the deadly mid-air disaster. 67 people killed when a Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines regional jet.
I just have spent the last 24 hours thinking about my wife in that plane.
The plane breaking into 2, both aircraft plunging into the icy Potomac River. Rescue crews searching overnight for passengers and wreckage.
This was a dark and excruciating night in our nation's capital.
President Trump calling it America's hour of anguish, but also suggesting Democrats' diversity initiatives were a factor. The new backlash tonight, when we're learning about the victims, Tom Yamas, on the losses for the American and Russian ice skating communities, Olympic star Nancy Kerrigan's powerful message, and what we know about the military personnel on board that chopper. The investigation underway into how this could happen. NBC's Tom Costello with new reporting tonight on the staffing levels inside the air traffic control tower, and the heated hearings for 2 of President Trump's most controversial nominees, Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. Will they get enough Republican votes to be confirmed?
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
The air crash recovery in the cold waters of the Potomac is finished for the night. Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John.
I'm Dickerson. We're devoting much of the broadcast to what's become a rare event in this country, a major air disaster. An Army helicopter collided with an American Airlines regional jet as it was attempting to land last night at Reagan Airport near Washington.
Both aircraft plunged into the Potomac. All 64 people on the plane and the 3 soldiers on the helicopter were killed. Most of the bodies have been recovered.
Divers will return to the water at daylight. Chris Van Cleve is at Reagan Airport. And Chris, how could this have happened?
One witness described it as a big ball of fire and wreckage just falling down towards the river. Here's what it sounded like in the tower.
Crash, crash, crash. This is alert 3. Crash, crash, crash. This is alert 3. Where's the alert 3? It is off the approach end of runway 33. Approach end of runway 33. Helicopter crash.
This is the deadliest air disaster in America since 9/11. No one's blaming the American Airlines pilots. Planes can't get out of the way as easy as choppers. The Black Hawk pilots were pretty experienced. The male pilot had 1,000 hours under his belt. The female pilot had 500. So what happened? Tonight we're learning that the air traffic control tower at Reagan National was understaffed. The New York Times breaking the story that one controller was doing the job of 2. The controller, who is handling helicopters, was also instructing planes that were landing and departing from its runways. That's not normal. That means you're using 2 frequencies, and the plane pilots can't hear the helicopter pilots. Reagan National has had staffing shortages for a while. They're supposed to have 30 air traffic controllers in the tower. They only had 19. This is the busiest runway in America, and they're down 11 guys. In fact, the Washington Post is reporting that just Tuesday, another jet trying to land aborted and had to make a second approach after a helicopter appeared on its flight path. The president briefed the nation this morning and said DEI could be a factor.
I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. Brilliant people have to be in those positions. And their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened because of the stress where you have many, many planes coming into one target. And you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it.
I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone.
The deadly mid-air collision in the American capital.
It was a very quick, rapid impact.
The investigation this Thursday night, the recovery efforts in the river, and what we're learning about the victims. The U.S. president doubles down on his tariff threat.
And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada.
The one Canadian export, he says, may be exempt. The latest exchange of hostages and prisoners between Israel and Hamas, why it was delayed for several hours. And one food bank's fishy windfall.
We didn't want it to go to waste.
The big donation that came with a catch.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There.
February 18 on ABC TV.
Today, reports that air traffic control at a US airport may have been understaffed at the time of a deadly mid-air crash. A chaotic release of Israeli hostages in Gaza tests the fragile ceasefire. 2 men compensated by the National Redress Scheme for abuse by the late Cardinal George Pell. And flood warnings for North Queensland with more heavy rain on the way this weekend. Hello,
Today, reports that air traffic control at a US airport may have been understaffed at the time of a deadly mid-air crash.
Hello, welcome to Netwatch on France 24. I'm Thomas Waller, and these are your headlines. 2 black boxes from Wednesday's airplane and helicopter crash in D.C. have been recovered.
Chaotic
67
release of
people
Israeli
died,
hostages
making it
in
the
Gaza
deadliest plane
tests
crash
the
in
fragile
over 20
ceasefire.
years.
2 men compensated by the
Hamas
National
released 8 more
Redress Scheme for
hostages while
abuse by the
Israel
late
frees
Cardinal
110
George Pell.
Palestinian prisoners in a
And
chaotic
flood warnings
process
for
which
North
highlights the
Queensland with
fragility
more
of
heavy
the
rain on the
ceasefire.
way this weekend.
And former German Chancellor Angela Merkel slams Friedrich Merz, the leader of the Conservatives, for cooperating with the far-right AfD party.
Hello and welcome to
helping push
ABC
through
News.
a bill
I'm Ruby
on
Cornish.
tighter
A link
immigration
to
control.
the jewelry.
This is Asia Now.
Hi and good morning. It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi, 10 a.m. in Jakarta. I'm Yasmin Yonkers at this hour. Investigations underway in the U.S. over a mid-air collision between a passenger plane and a military helicopter. Both black boxes have been recovered as President Donald Trump blames diversity hiring for the crash. Officials say there are no survivors. Israel frees more than 100 Palestinians after a delayed blame on a chaotic hostage exchange earlier. Hamas also releases 8 Israelis and 5 Thai captives. CNN spoke to one father who awaits his son's return. And the UN warns of looming hunger in Myanmar for...
Two months after Chad severed its defence agreement with Paris, the French army has handed over its last military base in the country. Though it was Chad who announced the end of the defence pact, the head of the French Armed Forces Africa Command stated the handover was partly France's decision.
Le transfert de la base Conseil aujourd'hui marque une nouvelle étape.
The transfer of the Kassai base today marks a new stage. It is part of the French decision to end permanent military bases in Central and West Africa. This structural change is necessary to adapt to the evolution of the world and the evolution of Africa. We are reaffirming our partnership in a dynamic Africa whose youth carries a lot of hope. We must act differently.
Nous devons agir différemment et autrement.
It comes after France handed over its 2 other military bases in the country. The Chadian Army's Chief of Staff has held the end of defence ties with
President Paul Kagame has said Rwanda is ready for confrontation, rejecting growing criticism over its support for M23 rebels in eastern Congo. On Thursday, M23 forces with Rwandan backing captured the major city of Goma and began pushing south towards Bukavu, the capital of South Kivu province.
Thank you for sparing your precious time. This is Amir Shakil. Have a good life. Bye-bye.